The New York Times writes an article, paper or record, asking, what is one Tulsi Gabbard up to? I'm sorry, what exactly is Tulsi Gabbard up to? I want to be precise. Byline. As she injects chaos into the 2020 presidential primary by accusing her own party of rigging the election, an array of alt-right internet stars, white nationalists, and Russians have praised her. That gives you some context to what the entirety of the article is about. Just an outright slander. They even make the argument at some point in the article that her being for pot legalization is for some reason relevant to her being in line with right-wing trolls. Outright part of the political spectrum. This article was outright slanderous. They have attributed this woman who literally served in the military to somehow being a puppet of the Russian government. Daily Beast, same thing. Because 3 people who were sympathetic to Russian interests out of thousands donated to her, she is somehow, again, a Putin puppet. This woman who served in our armed forces is somehow working at the behest of the Russians. We are right now $20 trillion in debt. If I'm not mistaken, it's $23 or $24 trillion in debt. A lot of that came from us knocking over governments. I don't know at which point is it the responsibility of people, service members, who get involved in the military with the notion of protecting this particular country to go around serving the whims of essentially neocons. That is not why they put on the uniform. So someone who's in our services, who see the real harm and what these wars do, Iraq, that Bush started, cost $7 trillion. Not to mention the lives of 1 million Iraqis. We have been in those countries for 18 years. Regime change wars. Not to mention 4,000 of Tulsi Gabbard's servicemen. So a person who acknowledges this and said we need to stop these regime change wars. We need to stop knocking over governments. Let's stop that. And that if we want to do anything real on a domestic front, spending $1 trillion a year for the military is not the way to do it. A person who acknowledges that and says that. A person who sees the front pages of the New York Times that says we are supporting terrorists in Syria and we did similar things in Libya, Iraq, in order to destabilize those governments. Iraq, we just knocked it over. But Syria, Libya. And a person who says, hey, maybe we shouldn't be supporting people who are chopping off heads and raping women. Maybe we shouldn't do that, even if doing that or not doing that essentially allows Bashar al-Assad to stay in power. Maybe we shouldn't do that. To acknowledge reality gets cast as a Putin puppet. She has to deal with this shit all the time. When she goes on networks who hate her guts, in part because she was willing to step down, meaning their allegiance and ties to the Democratic Party. And another part because she has the sense, the rationale to say, maybe we should stop these regime change wars. That is not to the benefit of us. It is not to the benefit of our people in this country, nor is it to the benefit of the military budget. If there's some right-wingers who agree with that, I don't give a shit if there's some right-wingers that agree with that. Good. Welcome to the party. But they cast that. Even the New York Times, paper of record, this wasn't an opinion piece, as her being a Putin puppet, an ally to Russia. Astonishing. CNN will be hosting the debate tonight. New York Times will be one of the moderators on that debate. The same CNN that will be hosting the debate had a panelist who literally called Gabbard an agent of Russia. She is working at the behest of a foreign government. The woman who put on the military uniform is working at the behest of the Russian government. God, I wish I was on these panels one day where somebody says that. Lord knows there's nothing else I wish for more than to be able to sit on a panel where some asshole in a suit says some shit like that, where I can put his ass to the ground. But CNN knows that. So my black ass will not be on CNN because they know that. Welcome to the Soapbox. My name is Jamarl Thomas. This is the Progressive Soapbox. If you dig it, like, share, subscribe. You can support PayPal Patreon. I will make this video quick because there is another video that is in my head, that is running through my head, that I want to get out while it's running through my head. But I want to talk about this because this was aggravating to me. It's astonishing. How do you say this? How do you say this and get away with this? And people on the stage might have they demurred. But this was something that should be put down, not demurring over. Not saying, oh, that's a bit strong. No, he needs to be put down on that. That's something that you can factually, objectively interrogate. Explain yourself. What do you mean by that? What is the specific things to which you ascribe that to? And is there a counter argument that gets across you're full of shit? That answer is yes. Did they display that? No. And again, this group, in coordination with the same group, New York Times, that did this article, smear piece, will be hosting the debates. Oh, what fun. What fun. Let's hear Bakari make his point.
Candidate is going to be bold enough to go after Joe Biden, because we've seen candidates, every time they go after Joe Biden, their numbers slip. So let's see who's going to be the one who...
I don't know who she's talking about. Kamala Harris' numbers slip because she got essentially annihilated by Tulsi Gabbard. That has nothing to do with Joe Biden. Castro numbers were always in the toilet. I have no idea who she's talking about. But let's let her make a point again. This is what goes for CNN analysis.
who gets out there and gets bold, gets mavericky, as Sarah Palin said.
Tulsi gonna be wearing white again. Coming in on her white Tulsi with the knee.
But he's got another knee. She gets one knee, he's got another knee though.
There is a chance that Tulsi's not just working for the United States of America, but I digress. So,
oh, wait a minute.
What does that mean?
That's not just an allegation. I firmly believe that.
Message is coming now.
No, here I know. Watch the bots come on Twitter now. I firmly believe that Tulsi Gabbard stands on that stage is the antithesis to what the other 11 individuals stand for, especially when it.
That part's true. That part's true. She's on this stage with this notion that we need to stop these regime change wars. She didn't put on a uniform with this notion for the goal of just knocking over other governments that we don't particularly like or we don't particularly agree with. No. We have not been to the best interests of Syria. Full stop. Flat fact. True. I mean, ultimately, if you ask the people, hey, do you prefer the head choppers that the United States was pushing for or Assad? I would guarantee you almost to the person they would say Assad. That means we've not been to the best interests of Syria. We've pushed, we've aggravated, we've worked with in order to inspire that quote unquote civil war, but to then also go further and try to knock down Assad using those terrorists with this fig leaf of a Syrian army. Or Free Syrian Army, as we call it. He agrees with the head choppers. This guy. I don't. I don't like the notion that we were doing that. That's a flat fact. Everything I've just said was a flat fact. If that's true, what I'm saying, then he's agreeing more so with the head choppers. Well, I don't. Tulsi doesn't. And it's fair enough to say that she's not anti-war. That's a little bit different. She's anti-interventionist wars, which is exactly what Syria was. Now, he gets on the stage, and to be fair, Sanders has said that the Syrian war, for the most part, was illegal. He said the Yemen war was illegal. So, murky on that point. But I guess I'm making the point that, yes, she is the antithesis, not because she's working with Vladimir Putin, not because she's a Putin puppet and all of this other nonsense, but because she's against these regime change wars. What is so difficult for him to understand with that? It's like saying the U.S. disagrees with some random country. And because the U.S. disagrees with some random country, and that random country is allied with Russia or China or whoever, then us not being for the terrorists to knock over that government means that we are also working with this other foreign power that this country disagrees with. This is utterly ludicrous. It's childish, but it's done so for political reasons. He's not being serious. He is, in the sense of pushing a particular opinion where analysis is usually weak. But he's doing so, A, almost at the behest of the Democratic Party, but B, also with this notion of a neocon foreign policy, where it is okay to topple governments that you don't particularly like. And being against that somehow makes you an ally of something else. It's silly. It's silly. And yet, it's CNN. Let's hear this nonsense.
When it comes to issues such as foreign policy, there is no question that Tulsi Gabbard, of all the 12, is a puppet for the Russian government.
No question. Not one. No question. In a room of thousands. Not one. In a room of millions. In a room of 7 billion people. Not one question. And yet I have a question. I have questions. I have questions and qualms about that. I've made those clear. Even right now. That means he's lying. That means he's lying. He doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about. He's lying. Either he is comically out of touch with reality, or he's lying. Choose. CNN, hosting the debate tonight.
Whoa.
I mean,
that was strong.
how is there no question?
Well, I think that you look at her relationships, doing the bidding, her relationships and affection for people like Bashar al-Assad, her admiring somebody who we know to be a war criminal, propping.
I'm unaware of admiring Bashar al-Assad. I've made arguments saying that we should work with the Syrian government in order to leave the region because it's Syrian territory. I've said nothing about Bashar al-Assad insofar as the way he's run that particular government or the things that he's done in that country. It has nothing to do with him. It has everything to do with us. It has everything to do with us. That's our military. Those are our troops in that country. It has to do with us and not being a part of this process. This is nothing about Bashar al-Assad. Nothing. Again, he does not know what the fuck he's talking about. Not at all. CNN hosting the debate tonight.
Them up. I think that those are questions that are going to have to be answered.
I mean, obviously, with Syria in the news, obviously, this will come up tonight. I mean, I don't know that it will be framed the way you are.
I don't think the moderators will frame it as
I
such.
don't either.
Actually, I don't know if the moderators will frame it that way at all. They might. Who knows? They might. It is CNN, after all. You have a job on CNN, and CNN has you there not being unclear of what you're going to say. But for that very specific reason that you will say stupid shit like this. I hope you understand my point. I will never get a job on CNN because I say shit the way I say it. He does for the exact same reason. They know what he's going to say. Him saying stuff like this. She has the look on her face like, ooh, that's a bit strong. By the same token, saying that's a bit strong is not enough. When somebody is saying that a person who served in our military that is running for president of the United States to be commander-in-chief of our military is somehow working for a foreign adversary. Are you serious? Are you serious? And he's on CNN hosting the debate tonight. To call this ludicrous, to call this propaganda on a level that is breathtaking, and for him to be able to keep his job after that is essentially co-signing everything that he just said. That is outright ludicrous. Honestly. Charles Calvin, Bakari sells out, most aptly named. Krillin 876. JT, don't forget, she is with white nationalists too, right? Russians and white nationalists and alt-right. Mind you, the woman who's pushing for health care to cover everybody in the country, something that none of those right-wingers would agree with, and that is pushing for a Green New Deal of sorts, her own version of it. she's with the right wingers. Is it possible? Is it possible, to any degree that's possible, that there's a coalition in the country that says we don't want to spend $1 trillion on the military, and that we don't want to have a foreign policy where our goal is to just knock down nations? Is that possible? Is it possible that our foreign policy in this world has been to the detriment of the world, and that has set fires all throughout the Middle East? Those quote-unquote terrorists were not there in Iraq before the United States got there. And we have been using those bloodthirsty terrorists who want to create some kind of caliphate in that region to essentially knock down other nations. And as an excuse to pay this $1 trillion a year for the military and knock down those other nations and be invested in that region. The oil is a coincidence, right? He is literally up there. It's astonishing. This is astonishing. It's like, it's breathtaking. Like that, like, think about what he just said. That's breathtaking. And CNN just politely gives it a pass. That's mind-blowing. I can't believe that. I can't believe that. I'm going to leave this. I want to get to one video before I leave. Like, share, subscribe. Whatever you want to think about Tulsi Gabbard. This is fucking utter nonsense. You may have people who agree with you on various points. Libertarians or American versions of libertarians. We would agree on 50% of the stuff they say. The stuff when they get the freedom is nonsense. But the stuff that they're talking about from the standpoint of foreign policy, you would agree with. Does it make me a libertarian? No. Does it make me like Rand Paul at least half of the time? Yes. Intellectual honesty is looking at this and saying perhaps they like her for reasons. For policy alignments. And those policy alignments said we're $23 trillion in debt. And we're spending $1 trillion a year on the military. And it is eating us alive on a domestic sense, being masters of the world. Maybe it's time to call it a day. That's where I'm at. That's where she's at. That neocon is somewhere else. And he's out there shilling for the head choppers. Like, share, subscribe. Thanks all.